Letting us come. My name is Ron Bentch. I am Rock Island Trail Development Coordinator for Missouri State Parks.
My name's Clint Barnett. I'm actually the project manager, not Ron. He tries to take my title. I'm the Rail Trail Project Manager for Missouri State Parks. So I built the first 47 miles of Rock Island Trail here 7 or 8 years ago from Windsor to Pleasant Hill, and then continue as we replace bridges and do various things along the Katy Trail. Those are typically my projects.
And my role is to kind of coordinate everything between state park staff, towns, communities, farmers, landowners. Basically, I don't have to know anything. I just have to know everyone. That's my job. So we're just going to kind of give you a general update of where we're at with the Rock Island Trail. And most of you know you have a grant here in the city. We can talk a little bit about that. I'm sure Don has updates on that as well. So most of you, well, first of all, I want to say how important Eldon has been to this project for state parks. As you know, the signing was here, and then when we accepted the trail was done here, and Eldon has just played a really important role in kind of the face of the Rock Island and getting the recognition for it and all those things. So we do acknowledge how important Eldon has been in that process. Most of you know that a few years ago we had funding proposed by the governor that did not go through to build a large portion. This last legislative session we also had $2.7 million from Economic Development Administration that would have completed trail between Eldon and Versailles. That also did not go through. So go ahead, Clint.
We were in that process at about that same time frame. We were able to secure funding to do the engineering design assessment for the South Morrow Creek Bridge right here out of town, which would be a fairly substantial part of the project to get from Eldon to Versailles. So the design work's done for that bridge. We know what it needs. There's a budget to it, assigned to it. So we have been able to do that part.
In the meantime, we've been doing planning. I have with me our master plan, and I'm going to leave that with you. We only have one copy to leave with you, but on Friday this is going to go live online. You will be able to see it. This is a living document. If you see problems with it or edits that need to be made, we can make corrections, but that is for you all. So he got the advance. He got the printed, just stapled together.
He got to see the version that had the draft stamp still stuck all over it and things circled in.
It's a good document. But that plan is going to go over each community that's going to have a trailhead, kind of what our planning process is, the history. I did a write-up on Eldon if I made mistakes. I'm from Versailles, so I made theirs a little better than yours over here in Eldon. I'm just joking. So where we are currently is the corridor is secured. Department of Natural Resources does have that corridor. It was the Federal Transportation Board has us as stewards of that, so that is secured. Our funding has been, questionable on that, on whether we have funding to build trail right now. What we do have is we have a series of grants in towns and communities. So we'll just go across the state. We'll start over on the western side where Windsor is. There are 2 missing bridges there. Those are bridges that MoDOT took out over Highway 65 and Highway 52. MoDOT has agreed to put those bridges back when we build trails. So we've been in talks with them. Coal Camp is getting ready to apply for a TAP grant to connect from Coal Camp up to the trail at Highway U, probably build trail over to High Lonesome Prairie, kind of make a loop there. So they're going to apply for a TAP grant. Last year, Versailles, this last round, Versailles got a $560,000 TAP grant to build 2 miles of trail within their city limits. Then we come over here to Eldon, the RTP grant. I believe that's around, is it 300? Yeah, to go from kind of the depot downtown to about out to Nutrag out here and build some trail amenities there at downtown. The next one would be Bell, Missouri, which is to build about 1.5 miles of trail within their city limits and do some trailhead work there as well. City of Owensville got a $500,000 TAP grant to build about 2.6 miles within their city limits to go from their high school all the way across. They aren't going to do any trail amenities at this time. Gasconade County is applying for the next round of TAP grant to connect from Owensville to go to the Soap Creek Bridge. And then we finally have the city of Gerald, which has about, I think they have enough to build about 1 mile of trail within their city limits. So that's where we are currently. Clint, anything on this?
Gerald's choosing to forego the grant process and just use funds that they've raised. There's pros and cons there. You know, obviously when you use what money you have as part of a federal grant, then there's more money to be had if you're looking at like an 80-20 match. But there's a lot of hoops to jump through, and they're going to try to, in fact, we're very close to having a license agreement signed with them, where they're going to go down the road, see what it looks like to just build with their own money and see what happens there. So in that process, they would build to our specs, and I would be the project manager out there every day when they get ready to go, helping them, and would, you know, when it comes to construction, we'll be there every day to assist. And at the point that we're ready here in town too, that's the same offer stands. I would gladly be here to make sure that, you know, everything runs as smooth as possible, answer any questions. There's a lot of the trail surface itself when you build it that's kind of built by feel, for lack of a better term. I mean, you're doing compression tests with a dump truck essentially. So it's a matter of how much base do we need? Well, it's a matter of how much does dump truck sink in before we have things compacted enough. And what affects that is essentially what shape the ballast is in that's still there. You know, when they built it, they used whatever they could get a hold of, wherever they could get a hold of it. Sometimes it's fairly small creek gravel, sometimes it's real volcanic kind of pumice looking stuff. Some of it's gone. We found places where it's been scooped out and hauled away. So how much surface you need to put in really kind of depends on what's still there. But it's a process that we will gladly be along every step of the way.
Do you guys have the intention of asking for more funding since your funding was denied? And what does that look like, and what session is that going to be asked for in?
So there was money asked for like these past 2 sessions. I don't know, but it would not surprise me if there's money asked for again. I don't know for sure.
Yeah, some of that is a funding request from State Park. Some of that is going to be bills that legislators will file asking for funding.
Yeah, any legislator could put that in, try to put that in the budget. So.
Right. So state governments usually file new decision items, but this is the time to be doing that. Mm-hmm. I work for the state. This is how I know this, because I did my first one yesterday.
Right.
So I didn't know if you kind of had a ballpark of what that looks like.
We really don't right now.
The other thing that Clint and I work on is landowner issues. We meet with farmers up and down the trail addressing fencing, concerns they have. We're trying to build a relationship. We're trying to make it known that we want to be good neighbors to every farmer out there, so we're listening to their concerns, whatever needs they have on fencing, we're documenting all that. So a good part of our day is we go out and meet with farmers. The other thing we want to mention is this Friday on the 30th at 10 o'clock in Windsor, we will be announcing this as the Rock Island Trail State Park.
It'll be the 93rd state park in the system.
Yeah.
And there's that stretch there from Windsor to Pleasant Hill that's currently essentially tagged as part of the Katy Trail. It's a separate railroad. It was never part of the Katy Trail. They crossed there in Windsor. It was designed and built as the Rock Island Trail, so we will officially announce that the Rock Island Trail State Park is in existence. That section is open, and these other pieces are still in development.
So with that 47 miles and the grants that we currently have, we would be 30% done with the entire 205 miles of the Rock Island Trail. All right.
I plan to attend on that myself.
Yeah, and Don will give us an update on...
I just found out about that.
Yeah, he found out about that a few minutes ago. But
just found out that he has a speaking part on Friday.
Yeah.
So
He'll do great.
I'm sure he will.
So the TAP grants that these other cities got, are they available still, or?
So the next round of TAP grants will open up on July 10th. Yeah, so those are going to be available.
They're 80-20?
They're an 80-20 match, yeah, with a $500,000 maximum. of the actual, so I think your match can go above where, like for sales got 560, I think it was.
And we can't or can apply for those. Can we apply for those grants? Are there specific qualifications that keep us from applying for those?
I would go ahead, Don.
So we had that discussion a couple months ago about looking at having the cash available at the time that we apply for the grant to be able to have the matching funds. To finish inside the city limits for Eldon is probably going to be a $350,000 to $400,000 cost going out to North Street. So we would need to come up with about 100 grand in matching funds in some way, shape, or form to be able to get that. Until we get through this latest round of spending, and you kind of saw some of the chunks that go out with the spending report. We've got some other things in finding out where that comes from in the prioritization of the other projects with the city. We kind of got to be careful with that before we overcommit to that.
But your belief would be these TAP grants would probably continue throughout the lifetime of the build of this trail?
Oh yeah. MoDOT releases a TAP grant usually on a 2-year cycle. Yeah, so our RTP grants, those have a max of $250,000. Those are every year, and I think those are released in February.
I think so.
Yeah.
And MoDOT has expressed interest in encouraging the application for TAP grants on this.
So they're being used, basically. You're not leaving any money on the table?
Yeah,
I think there's 7 communities now that are working, there's 7 communities working on a grant for that right now. The success of the project and the usage of the project will go a long way to the next round of expansion of that.
Yeah.
How well those projects.
And your TAP grants you're competing in regions. So I believe Benton County is the regional line, and it covers, from pretty much Stover all the way across the state is one chunk in the central region.
So for I've been working with Ron and Clint pretty consistently a preliminary design in. The 2 big challenges we have right now is the railroad right-of-way that we're working on, and some specific tasks that the State Historic Preservation Office has identified in our scope of work that they want to change. So we're in the process of changing the scope of work to be able to resubmit that, and we think we'll be able to get that through. And then
I feel very confident.
Yeah, I haven't heard on right-of-way last week or so. Same as we was before with the path.
Oh yes, across the highway there. Yeah, we've got a verbal agreement there. In fact, I just submitted license agreements. In fact, ran those through our real estate manager, and they're off at DNR Legal right now, being gone through and approved. But we do have an agreement there. It was important for us. So a big part of a development project like this, very much like the Katy Trail, is to encourage economic development. That's it's an engine, right? And that's a big part of it. And anytime that we can help accommodate a city or a business and still put a trail through safely, that's something that we're very much interested in doing. Crossing the business route where it was at right there was a safety concern for me, and putting it across the middle of that gravel parking lot. I think we've got an answer there, and we've got a path forward that looks very positive.
And Eldon has one of the last historic buildings on the Rock Island Trail. It's pretty cool.
So is that the only issue we have going all the way through town? We've got one?
That's the only thing that comes to mind.
It's all we're aware of at this time.
So I identified that as something that we need to get straightened out fairly early on, and I spent several weeks kind of talking through that and putting together some ideas, and I think we're there. I know we're there. So.
Good.